Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Desperate fight.
If that ain't danger close, I don't know what is. Holy
From garden hoses to helicopters, people and crews across BC do what they can to save more homes and memories from wildfires. Plus, pivotal vote. BC port workers vote on a proposed agreement to end their long-running labor dispute. And calling Taylor Swift.
It's a great spot, and I think Taylor would be really happy here.
Fans in BC say 6 shows in Toronto is plenty. Come out here.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Anita is on assignment this week. We begin east of Kamloops, where rapidly spreading fires are threatening properties around Adams Lake. Witnesses say flames are moving like burning tornadoes. And as Mira Baines shows us, some picturesque communities are now the latest portraits of BC's wildfire situation.
If that ain't danger close, I don't know what is.
Desperate measures as a man tries to use a garden hose to protect his home on the edge of Adams Lake. This wildfire is the latest in BC to threaten a popular tourist area.
It was the wind that was the real game changer that turned the situation from really nothing serious to it was amazing how far the fire spread in a couple hours.
The community is only accessible by boat. A small ferry took many to safety. Nearly 100 properties now under evacuation order by Thursday afternoon.
All evacuees except those residents who elected on their own volition to stay. Everyone has now been moved across. However, the ferry will be running continuously in order to support the wildfire fighters.
The BC Wildfire Service says the fire was moving at 50 kilometers an hour, fueled by strong winds.
Wind shift developed and some pretty extreme fire behavior developing into the evening and overnight.
Oh my God.
Windy conditions also pushed another fire down a mountain Tuesday night.
Well, that's my house gone. I ain't surviving that, is it?
And into cabins near Gun Lake, about a 4-hour drive north of Whistler.
Holy.
Paul Kenya was forced to flee when flames suddenly intensified.
It was like this wind came through that I've never experienced in my life. It was like heat and a whirlwind and a tornado all mixed into one. There were giant branches flying through the air.
That fire is still out of control as the province struggles with a record year of forests burned.
We will continue to do what it takes and to spend whatever it takes to fight these wildfires and support communities through these evacuations.
With a long weekend ahead, the BC Wildfire Service is warning people to be vigilant and stay safe.
Mira Baines reporting for us tonight. Meanwhile, a planned wildfire ignition closed a portion of Highway 3 west of Osoyoos earlier today. The closure stretched between Osoyoos and Karamias, but it has since reopened. Officials say there was limited visibility in the area because of smoke from the Eagle Bluff wildfire. It put people under evacuation orders and alerts after it crossed the Canada-U.S. border from Washington State earlier this week. Drivers are warned to expect delays on Highway 3. Darius Madevi joins us now with a first look at the weather. What's up now, Darius?
Well, I thought we could take a look at the drought warning, but instead we're going to talk about the tornadoes that we've been seeing in Ottawa earlier today. We've had watches and warnings throughout the day today, just sort of popping up and down. Our first warning came at around 5 p.m. local time, and as it popped up, we did see what looked like might be a funnel cloud forming, but didn't seem to pan out as a tornado. It wasn't until later in the day, closer to 7 p.m. local time, we saw a tornado warning, and we did see a tornado touch down in a suburb of Ottawa. So we definitely saw that funnel cloud formation. We saw that rotation. And if we take a look at the storm that's been passing through, it's quite a serious affair. You can see all these lightning strikes coming through, really a severe storm. We can't be surprised that we've had all these severe thunderstorm warnings in place. And so that tornado that touched down, no word yet on what the rating was, but certainly something to be on the lookout for over the next couple days when researchers have a chance to get out there and measure just what the impact of that funnel cloud was.
All right, Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
BC port workers have begun voting on a deal that would end their long-running labor dispute. The decision is whether or not to ratify the agreement recommended by negotiators. The CBC's Renee Filipponi has more on the proposed deal.
Membership of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union will be voting for the next 2 days on this latest agreement that has been recommended by their leadership. Many are hoping they will approve it. It would end the dispute and bring some stability to BC ports. There has been a lot of back and forth between the union and the employer over recent weeks. The first tentative deal was initially rejected by the Longshore Caucus, a larger group of union leaders, and never made it to a full membership vote. They later approved it, and it went to that vote, but failed last week. Membership took issue with its lack of job protection from contracting out and automation. But it didn't take long for a new deal to be reached by both sides. Just days later, it was announced in a joint statement on Sunday, and they said they got to this new agreement with the help of the Canada Industrial Relations Board. And that is what is being put before workers over the next couple of days. On social media, union members who had voiced opposition to the previous deal appear to be on board with this one, urging workers to support it. According to reporting by the Tyee, the last deal was rejected over one simple word, normal, that it said, quote, normal maintenance will continue to be done by union members. Workers felt that word was just too vague. There has been a lot of pressure from the business community to get a final resolution to this situation. Picket lines were up for 13 days in early July, and estimates are it stalled billions of dollars in cargo from coming in or out of 30 port terminals. The results of this membership vote are expected either sometime Friday evening or early Saturday morning. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
Days after the Prime Minister said housing is not a, quote, primary federal responsibility, one of his senior BC MPs is touting federal involvement in new rental housing in South Vancouver.
This is a shared responsibility from every level of government. Our government has put actually increasing supply in our country as one of our top priorities. And this is just one of the programs that not only we have announced, but have actually executed quite well.
Vancouver South MP and Minister of Emergency Preparedness Harjit Sajjan announced the building of 422 purpose-built rental homes in 3 projects in the city with help from Ottawa. Developer West Group says 178 of them will be long-term rentals at below market rates, while 47 will be even less expensive. Ottawa says it plans to welcome 500,000 immigrants into Canada a year by 2025. As cities and communities across the country face severe housing shortages, high rents, and costly home prices. The schoolhouse, more than a century old, has finally arrived at its new home at the Capilano Reserve.
We had to travel through land and sea to get here and bring this home. And as you can see behind me, we did some cultural ceremonial work on the ground blessing last week, but today you see some of our families sharing song and doing a little bit of ceremony to make sure the pathways are clear for this home. It's coming through our village right now.
The old Henry Hudson building at the corner of Cornwall Avenue and Maple was going to be knocked down to make way for a new elementary school. But the Squamish Nation stepped forward to preserve and move it so it can be used as a school. The entire building was moved to its new home by barge, as we showed you last night. Communities of diverse stripes will be marching in the parade and taking part in all sorts of events, and CBC will be joining them, including yours truly. The Vancouver Pride Society has changed the parade route this year. Here's how it will go. Marchers will start at Davie and Denman Street in the West End. They will then head down Beach Avenue and then Pacific Street until they get to the new festival site at Concord Community Park in False Creek. Organizers intended to make the route more accessible for more people and have events closer to transit and other ways to get around. We hope to see you there. India's first ever Broadway musical, Mughal-E-Azam, is coming to town. It tells an epic love tale between a prince and a courtesan based on a 1960 Bollywood film by the same title. CBC News caught up with the musical's director, actors, and producers.
Mughal-E-Azam is the epic film from 1960s, the kind of scale that it was back in the days. And what project this is, it's a musical. It is a Broadway-style musical, first of its kind, and first of its scale to travel out of India, and also to be a traveling format to travel into 14 cities.
I think we have an extraordinary team. And it's very interesting that post-COVID, all of a sudden, the production got a different kind of an emotional feel than it was before COVID. So as the actors have grown, as they have matured, as they have, in many ways experienced more in life, they bring all that back onto the stage.
Every audience, they will come with that impression that, okay, we have seen the original Mughal-E-Azam. They will come with those impressions in the mind. But it's our challenge how to break it. And we took that challenge, and successfully we are doing in all the world. And now it's time for the Vancouver.
It feels unreal. Actually, it's been 7 years now, and we've been doing it. I think this would be, we've actually crossed we've done more than 250 shows already, but it doesn't feel like it. It just feels like yesterday.
My favorite moment is the Qawwali song. When I enter for the Qawwali, before that there is a scene when I am just facing Anarkali, telling her things which are there in my heart, taunting her and all that. I love that scene. And yes, when we start the Qawwali and Salim is sitting in front, it's a duel which is going on through songs. I enjoy that moment.
Aji haan hum bhi dekhenge, aji haan hum bhi dekhenge, aji haan hum bhi dekhenge.
The Royal Canadian Mint is issuing a new commemorative loonie designed by a Victoria artist. It's in honor of the trailblazing engineer Elsie McGill. Claire Watson was selected by the Mint last year to craft and design the coin to honor McGill. Vancouver-born McGill, also known as the Queen of Hurricanes, was the first female aeronautical engineer on Earth. 3 million of these commemorative coins were introduced into circulation at the start of the month. Very cool. From supermoons to meteor showers, the night sky is rich with wonders this summer. Up next, an astronomer is going to guide us through the stellar phenomena we can expect. Stick around. Thanks for staying with us on our commercial-free live stream tonight. School may not be top of your mind yet, but with just over a month until kids are back in the classroom, the Doug Ford government in Ontario is revealing some big changes, part of the province's push for what it calls back-to-basics education. More now from Mike Crawley.
It's the 1st of August, smack dab in the middle of summer vacation. So back to school is likely the furthest thing from the minds of students or teachers in Ontario right now. But someone who is looking ahead to the new school year, Education Minister Stephen Lecce, announcing new measures that he says will refocus school boards on academic achievement and the development of life and job skills.
Here we go. Let's start with a really hard one.
The centerpiece of the reforms, a new reading curriculum.
This change is really important because there were a lot of kids who really weren't getting what they needed in the primary grades of school.
So Nigel says...
The emphasis is on phonics, teaching kids to sound out words.
There's a lot of evidence to show that that is just the most efficient way to teach kids to read. So yes, and that has been really missing from the curriculum before.
You had so many good numbers.
This comes after recent overhauls of the math curriculum and the science curriculum. Now, starting in September, every Ontario school board will have to report its progress on the Back to Basics priorities.
We have no issue with being transparent about what happens in our schools because we know that we have one of the best public education systems in this world.
Boards will also be required to post their stats on student absences, suspensions, and expulsions, and information about professional development days, including the topics, content, and speakers, at least 2 weeks ahead of time.
If parents want to see what's happening, I think they should have access to that information. Professional development days should be meaningful and should help to allow people working in the classroom to meet the needs of the students.
Another change? The government will let teachers' college students work as supply teachers before finishing their training. Under the current rule, student teachers can only work under supervision.
In front of the classroom on your own should not happen while you are still in teachers' college. You should be with another teacher who's going to be your mentor or your guide.
We requested an interview with the education minister, but were told he was not available. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
The supermoon made its first showing of the month earlier this week, and judging by these photos British Columbians took, it was incandescent. This photo was taken by Greg Reilly, showing the sturgeon supermoon looking giant over a Soyuz. And then there was this one, submitted by Dickens Yap, seen from Vancouver. Very cool. Supermoons happen when the moon's orbit is closest to Earth at the same time that it's full. But if you didn't see this for yourself, don't fret. There's another one coming at the end of the month. It's the much more rare blue moon. But before that, you can catch what many say is the best shower of the year, the Perseid meteor shower. So the rest of the summer shaping up to be quite a feast for sky gazers. Let's dive into the cosmos now with Jeremy Heil. He's an astronomer and professor at UBC. Jeremy, thanks for joining us. First of all, we have two supermoons bookending our August this year. How does this happen?
Well, about 1 month a year, you'll get two moons in a month, and we call that second moon the blue moon. So like once in a blue moon is about once a year. And this year, it just so happens that the moon's orbit is an ellipse, and that ellipse is pointed just right that our August full moons are supermoons. So the moon is on the far side from the sun, so we get a full moon, and that's also the time in the moon's orbit that it's closest to Earth. So that full moon looks extra big, so we call that a supermoon.
Mm-hmm.
The scientific word is a syzygy at perigee, which has a nice ring to it too.
That's what our colleague Darius Madavi said yesterday. You learn new words every day. So besides the big moons, what other lunar events can we expect either later this month or later this year?
Well, in October, at the new moon, there's going to be an annular eclipse, which won't be complete. Annular means that the moon is a little bit further away from Earth than average. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of connected to the supermoon. It's the flip side. So the moon won't cover the entire sun. It'll leave a circle of fire around the sun. And that's, if you want to see that, you just drive down to Oregon, in fact. It's really close by where you want to get into the middle of it. And then from here, we'll see the moon creeping across the sun in the middle of October. So that's coming up too. Mm-hmm. And this month we have the Perseid meteor shower, yes, which comes every August 10th or 12th, mm-hmm, and in that span. And that's when our Earth is passing through the path of a comet called Swift-Tuttle. Mm-hmm. And the debris from that comet is showering into the Earth's atmosphere. And it seems to come from the constellation of Perseus, which is really far to the north of our sky. So if you want to see it, you need to get to some place like Porto Cove, where you can look right up to the northern end of the sky.
And any time frame? Should it be at night? Like obviously at night, but when? Early morning?
Well, we only have a couple hours of darkness, right? So where it's really, really dark. So August, 10th, 11th, 12th, around midnight, when it's the darkest is your best bet, so you can see. You're supposed to get maybe 2 meteors on a minute. That's what they predict. But if you're out at night in a dark place, there's meteors every few minutes all through the year. You just have to look up and pay attention.
Jeremy Howell, we appreciate your expertise and advice, astronomer at UBC. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Donald Trump's legal team claims his right to free speech has been denied. Today, the former U.S. president appeared for his arraignment. More in the court after this.
Just the way that process works, it's so slow.
Eric Gander is a Surrey taxidermist. He and his 2 sons are well known for their work in transforming animals, fish, and birds into lifelike trophies. Lately, the shop has been doing a special kind of sideline business. A few people have been bringing Gander pets that have died. It seems they can't bear the thought of parting with the pet, so they seek to have it preserved.
We get maybe 2-3 calls a week, of which maybe 1 finally goes through with it.
The process of preserving the pet involves freeze-drying. The animal is placed in a very cold vacuum chamber where, over a period of days, every trace of moisture is removed from its body. The animal retains its regular shape, but is impervious to decay.
So with this, where we actually remove nothing, we just it looks more lifelike. It has the proportions and everything is just absolutely perfect.
Gander says it costs about $350 to process a cat in this fashion. And because of the costs involved, the service is usually restricted to small pets, cats and dogs.
Yeah, in the freeze-dry process, we can go just cats or small dogs up to maximum 20 pounds. After that, you have to be conventional taxidermy, which is extremely expensive and time-consuming, and we actually don't recommend it.
The freeze-dry method is indispensable in retaining the fragile details in fish and animals.
Then the head itself was actually detached. The head itself was freeze-dried in the freeze-dry machine. We retained the real gills, the gill covers, gill rakers, and the tongue. Everything is real and freeze-dried.
So all that detail would be hard to recreate without?
Just about impossible to recreate that good, plus extremely time-consuming and expensive.
These muskrats, for instance, were freeze-dried before being touched up. And they do look more lifelike than if they were merely fur stretched over a mold. We had a final question to the taxidermist. Would he have a family pet freeze-dried?
No, I wouldn't. Personally, I wouldn't. I think if I had a dog or a cat that I'm closely attached to, once it dies, I keep my pictures, I keep the memory of it, and I'll get a new one with the money.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty today to conspiring to overturn his 2020 presidential election defeat. As Katie Simpson reports, Trump is calling this case political persecution.
Donald Trump is well rehearsed for this moment. Heading into court for his 3rd indictment in a 4-month span, he was whisked into Washington, D.C. greeted by demonstrators, a few dozen at most, and by curious onlookers, all in the shadow of the U.S. Capitol. It was a carnival-like atmosphere.
Yeah. All right, Trump, you gotta face the court.
No!
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Trump's critics here to witness history.
I'm embarrassed for our country in that there's so many people that still believe in Donald Trump.
Do you walk into the House for President Trump?
While the former president's supporters remain confident his legal problems are actually helping his re-election campaign.
Every time that there's a new indictment, whether it's New York or whether it's Miami or back here in the swamp, he goes up another 5 to 7 points. So I'm looking forward to another 5-point Trump bump after today, after all the free advertising.
The crowd only glimpsed Trump in his motorcade that drove into a private courthouse garage. As he waited for the hearing to start, he reportedly stared at the man who led this investigation, Special Counsel Jack Smith, who sat a few meters away and did not return the gaze. Trump stood to enter his not guilty plea on charges he conspired to overturn the 2020 election, the judge warning Trump to follow his release conditions or else he may be held in custody before his trial. As Trump emerged from court, the Republican presidential frontrunner remained defiant.
This is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot. So if you can't beat him, you persecute him or you prosecute him.
Katie Simpson reporting from Washington. Lizzo is firing back against accusations from 3 of her former dancers. The pop star says the allegations of harassment and discrimination are false. But as Tashana Reed shows us, her accusers are standing by their claims.
Lizzo has built a brand on body positivity and female empowerment. Now the singer is facing a lawsuit from 3 women that includes accusations of sexual harassment and discrimination.
Was I pressured to touch a nude performer? Yes. Was I brought into a private meeting where I was kind of interrogated about my personal matters and ended up having to share very personal things about myself regarding my weight? Yes.
The women, all former tour dancers, Ariana Davis, Crystal Williams, and Noelle Rodriguez, allege the singer created a hostile work environment.
She actually balled up her fist like this to me.
What's up, y'all? It's Lizzo. I'm looking for dancers.
After days of silence, for the first time, Lizzo addressed the lawsuit in an Instagram post, calling the allegations false and outrageous. She added, these sensationalized stories are coming from former employees who have already publicly admitted that they were told their behavior on tour was inappropriate and unprofessional. Her production company and a choreographer are also named in the suit.
Looking at the response from Lizzo was so disheartening.
This story raises yet again the issue of how pervasive body hatred is, how pervasive fat hatred is.
Jill Andrew is the co-founder of an organization that advocates for inclusive representation.
We cannot allow this one example, this one situation that's unfolding to unravel the movement. Photo shoot.
While none of the allegations have been proven in court, Lizzo's legal team will have 30 days to respond to the lawsuit, and a judge will then decide if it will go to trial. Tashana Reed, CBC News, Toronto.
At 6:33, a live look at Tofino from Long Beach Lodge. How will our BC Day long weekend shape up? Darius has the answers in your province-wide forecast right after this.
It looks like the Eiffel Tower, but this isn't Paris. This is Montmartre, Saskatchewan. The small village of about 450 people is located 90 kilometers east of Regina. Named by French settlers, it's a sister community to the Montmartre district of Paris. This mini replica showcases that connection.
Officials with the village say that they are expecting to see a bump in tourism now that this roadside attraction is part of an advertising push from Kit Kat. And it looks like it's working.
I had my baby daughter a week ago, and our nurse actually recommended that we come and check it out here. And we moved to Regina 3 years ago, and we hadn't really been out and about and seeing everything. So we heard about that, and then she told us about the Kit Kat bar promotion. And we thought, man, we got to go. And my mom is here visiting us too, and Paris is her favorite city in the world. So I thought, what better than Paris of the Prairies?
Nestle's Road Trip Breaks campaign features 6 attractions from across the country on its packaging. The replica Eiffel Tower is one of them. The village's role in the campaign was a secret, even from the mayor and councillors.
2 boxes of these chocolate bars showed up at my office one day, and I was like, oh, this is really happening. These are going to be on store shelves.
Longtime city administrator Dale Brenner was the man in charge of keeping the campaign under wraps. He says he was contacted about the project last year.
I wanted to say things at times, especially when we started talking about promotion of the community, but at the same time, it was just, I knew it was supposed to be kept a secret until the ad campaign started.
The family we spoke with says they're happy to make a stop in Montmartre. This is the first road trip for their 2-week-old daughter, and they thought, why not make a stop in the place that's known as the Paris of the Prairies?
I love small town Saskatchewan. I grew up in part of my life in small town Saskatchewan, and I think these are just some of the things that make them special and really unique.
The village and Kit Kat hope that this is where you end up taking a road trip break this summer. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Montmartre.
We're sharing really important information with the public, and I feel like this is exactly what our job is, especially as the public broadcaster, especially in morning radio. That's incredibly important.
Hey, I'm Johanna Wagstaff.
And hi there, I'm Rohith Joseph.
And we're asking for 10 minutes of your day to go through the 10 things that the UN recommends we can all do when it comes to climate change.
Please don't leave.
No.
And also, the things aren't new.
We are just wired to not do them.
We promise you to help you figure out your brains, and you and your people can make better choices to combat climate change.
10 Minutes to Save the Planet is available now on CBC Listen and everywhere you get your podcasts.
There is new pushback now against Canada's ban on single-use plastics. Some grocery stores want compostable bags to be exempt. But as David Thurton tells us, the federal government is not on board.
This Toronto supermarket offers eco-conscious customers options at checkout. Compostable shopping bags.
They love them. It's definitely a convenient option if anybody does forget their reusable bag.
But soon they'll disappear under the single-use plastics ban, leading this Calgary store to petition the federal government for an exemption.
We do feel that these bags really are worth fighting for.
That grocery is getting help in their fight, with others joining.
If you want to do a blanket approach that doesn't work for everybody, we've got that right now.
The city of Calgary accepts these bags as green bin liners because they break down in their organics recycling facilities.
We want to make sure that federal legislation isn't inadvertently hampering or hindering
really innovation in this space.
These bags are made from a starch-based polymer. If it's good enough for municipalities, it should be good enough for Ottawa, according to the manufacturer.
We were quite shocked at the decision to lump them into a category called non-conventional plastics, as there is no plastic in the product. I do hope they start listening and start looking at the science.
Canada's Environment Minister says not all municipalities are equipped to deal with the bags, which often end up in the dump and don't break down.
We won't change the regulation for one company. It makes absolutely no sense.
Environmentalists say Canadians used 50 million plastic checkout bags in 2019. Diverting them to composting could create problems.
So imagine if we just replaced all that with so-called compostables. It would overflow all our organics programs, and we wouldn't have any room for actual organics.
Under federal regulations, the sale of single-use plastic checkout bags will be banned come mid-December. But with Alberta businesses and politicians not backing down, this could become another provincial federal battle over environmental policy. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Darius Madavi joins us now with the full BC forecast as we head into the long weekend. Before we get to that, though, you're keeping track of those typhoons in East Asia.
I am. It's been a busy weather day today. Since we checked in a couple days ago, the typhoon has moved towards mainland China, but it doesn't look like it is continuing on that trajectory. It has really stood still since it arrived just off the coast of Taiwan, and it looks like tomorrow it'll be turning towards Japan. It is still classified as a typhoon, the equivalent of a Category 1 hurricane at those speeds, but it looks like by tomorrow, it's going to weaken to the point where it'll really be classified as nothing more than a tropical storm. Still could be really devastating to the areas that it hits if it does make landfall, with speeds of around 120 kilometers projected by the time it reaches Japan, but fortunately not as devastating as what we saw in China last week. Now, if we talk a bit about the drought, this is the other big story today. The provincial government released the new drought map, and you can see that we have a lot more areas, especially in the southern interior, that have reached drought level 4. That's a high drought level, meaning adverse impacts are very likely. So definitely a big risk, especially when we look at the fire danger. These two are very tightly intertwined because the fire danger, really what we have when we have a drought is it's setting the baseline for fire danger a lot higher than it usually would be. We have rains and they can bring the fire danger down temporarily, but once those dry up, we see the fire danger rise again really quickly because of that drought, because of all those dry, large fuels beneath the surface. Now, if we look at the weather systems through the province today, high pressure in the south, that low pressure system off the coast, not really doing much for us right now. This trough just moving up away out of the province, so really just bringing rain to the very northern parts of the province right now. But over the next couple days, we're going to see something a little bit different. First, that high-pressure system moves up and grows in the central part of the province. So lots of dryness here, very little rain really across the province. But into Saturday, we have a low-pressure system sneaking up from Washington State, going to bring some rain to the Kootenays. By the time we reach Sunday, rain is going to spread through most of the southern interior. If I showed you the projection beyond that point, we'd see even more rain coming to much of the province, thanks also to that low off the coast. Across the province, very sunny over the next few minutes, over tomorrow. Just a tiny bit of rain in Fort St. John. In Vancouver, same story, plenty of sun. Not until next week do we maybe see some rain.
Okay. Thanks very much, Darius.
Thank you.
Heat waves are the worst in the city than they are in rural areas normally. The CBC's Anya Zolotziotski has more on the push to make cities more resilient in the face of sweltering heat.
When a heat wave hits, people in cities often suffer more. But there are things we can do to make cities more heat resilient.
The Italians are calling it the Week of Hell.
Too hot even to visit one of the world's greatest historic sites, the Parthenon.
From St. Louis to South Florida.
There's nothing you can really do. There's nothing you can do. It's hot.
Sarah, as a researcher who specializes in climate resilience, why are cities so hot?
Cities are hot because we've actually changed the land surfaces. And so when we build cities, we put roads down, we put houses down, we remove the existing vegetation. So within a city, as well. There's all kinds of differences between different neighborhoods. This neighborhood, for example, has a lot of really big, wonderful trees that can decrease the temperature in our area.
Without features like trees, communities burn. We took a thermometer to this area. No trees around.
And so it's showing quite hot, almost 30 degrees already. So it's going to be a lot hotter here on the asphalt. And part of the reason is actually that the asphalt really absorbs the sunlight and holds it inside of it.
Just around the corner where there are trees, it's much cooler. Okay, so tell me what we're seeing on the thermometer.
All right, so right now it's actually showing about 21 degrees and 50% humidity, which is a pretty big difference.
Almost 10 degrees.
Yeah, almost a full 10 degrees.
Yeah. Why is that?
So right now we're in the shade, the thermometer's in the grass, we're underneath all of these big, beautiful trees. And because of that, there's just a lot less heat. The grass doesn't radiate heat the same way asphalt does, so it doesn't absorb or radiate it. You can feel it. It's quite cool.
No kidding. One thing I'm wondering about too is obviously in cities we have just denser communities. How do high rises and condos play into this?
Denser neighborhoods are better because there's actually more walkability. And so that means there needs to be less infrastructure for roads, which means less asphalt that actually holds all that heat. But it can also play a part as well in something called like an urban canyon. So when the heat comes and shines on all these reflective surfaces, it can really increase. So it really depends on the density and the height of the buildings, as well as the materials that are on the outside of them.
So even here in Edmonton, a winter city, we have to come up with heat coping solutions. And elsewhere in the world, the situation's more dire, and some initiatives are already underway. Paris is creating 800 spaces across the city known as cool islands. They include parks, water fountains, swimming pools, and museums. Cool islands can be 2 to 4 degrees cooler than nearby streets. Phoenix and Athens have introduced heat officers to coordinate responses to scorching temperatures. Windsor, Ontario is one of many cities rapidly planting trees. They're adding fountains to parks too. All this is urgent. Heat has caused tens of thousands of deaths in recent years. Today it's known as a silent killer, and it's especially dangerous for the elderly and those with underlying health conditions. Last year, nearly 62,000 people died in Europe when the continent had its hottest summer ever on record. In 2021, more than 600 people died during British Columbia's heat dome event. And heat waves likely aren't going away. A new study found that this year's chain of heat waves would be virtually impossible without the climate crisis causing them. So experts say it's time for solutions, especially those that help the most vulnerable.
Environmental justice is about the unequal distribution of risk, right? Now, people think, oh, everyone lives under the sun, so everyone should be equally impacted by heat, right? There should be no unequal distribution. It's almost a democratic effect, people think, but that's not true because the social conditions make some more vulnerable to the effects of heat than others.
And while cities figure out how to adapt, regular people are getting creative.
How to make an air conditioner. Fan, bowl of ice, crushed or cubed, turn on fan, air conditioner.
Nice dude with some nice trees. See these ice cubes, see these ice creams.
Some use umbrellas to create their own shade, while in China this year, beachgoers wore face skinis to protect their skin. Whatever can be done to cool us off, it needs to happen fast, and it needs to help everyone.
It's a family business that's stuck it out for 2 decades. After the break, we'll show you the mother-daughter duo running a popular dim sum stand at the Richmond Night Market. Stick around.
When me and my friends were going on the tube, we just hopped on. And so one day we went kneeboarding, and one of my friends jumped off, and he jumped on, and we just let him go, and he just hanged on.
He just jumps on.
Yeah.
He cries. Like if we're in the boat, he will cry until we let him on the tube.
I thought everyone's dog kneeboarded, but I guess not.
Usually they say pugs are really lazy, and I think he likes it because he just sees us doing it, and he likes to be really active and he likes to do stuff. So trying new things for him is really good for him.
He rides on the quad. He's rode on Ethan's skateboard.
Yeah.
He toboggans. He just does everything the family does.
Yeah,
It's kind of nice.
They told us pugs can't swim, they can't do it. And he's been on the tube ever since we got him.
He can.
He can swim, yeah. No, they told us he couldn't, but he definitely can. We do wear his life jacket always. And on the life jacket has a little handle, so he'll swim to the ladder. We just suitcase him out.
He shakes off and he's
shakes
ready
off
to go
and then,
again.
cries to get on again. Him being pulled behind us and going in and out of the waves and smiling and loving life, making everybody else happy.
My name is Tiffany Parada, and I am the host of the Winnipeg Parking Lot Puzzle Exchange.
We gather at a parking lot, and when the cars arrive, we throw our trunks open where all the puzzles are. Generally, what people do is they walk around and find puzzles that interest them, and it usually goes for about 15 minutes, so it's very quick. And people walk around and look at all the puzzles, shop around, and hopefully find what they need to find. My love for puzzles came from the idea of taking days one day at a time. The idea of one piece at a time, making the puzzles is the motto that I really love, and it helps me to slow down. It helps me to breathe. Focusing on doing something simple is a great way to just get through the day, get through a moment that's really hard. It's pulled me through a lot of hard times. Some people look for brands. Some people look for the amount of different pieces. Some people look for the condition of the puzzles. Me personally, I'm not very specific. I'll trade puzzles that are missing pieces that are up to like 500 to 2,000 pieces. But a good puzzle generally for me personally is one that is complete. I like the larger ones. I love the 2,000 piece, 1,500 piece puzzles. It'd be great to find a venue and do a sale and exchange for an afternoon and get puzzlers together and gather and trade and sell and just have one spot once a year where we can get together and just totally geek out with puzzles.
Every week, our own Lisa Christensen gives us a peek of the most exciting events happening around the Lower Mainland. This week, she's swinging by a planetarium.
Did you know BCIT had a planetarium? I didn't know. This week on Getting Out, we're about to get some music and some lasers at the planetarium. I think a lot of people are surprised to find out there's a planetarium at BCIT.
A lot of people at BCIT were surprised to find out. There were people who taught here for 20 years and didn't realize there was. This was actually the first planetarium built in Vancouver.
Now, I think for a lot of people coming in, this is kind of the focal point. What are we looking at?
This is an Armand Spitz star projector. It's an analog star projector. There's only 2 of these left in Canada, very few in the world, actually.
So tell us about the shows coming up this Saturday night.
First show is an astronomy show because we're astronomy freaks. We run those for free, actually. And that's called Phantom of the Universe, narrated by Tilda Swinton. After that, we go into Vidlaser Zeppelin, which is our newest show, followed by Dark Side of the Moon. Always have to have the Dark Side of the Moon. And Gorillas is the late show. We'll be doing more shows in September 30th and on a full schedule once we get into the fall.
All right, so can we hear a little Led Zeppelin and see a little Led Zeppelin?
Absolutely.
And here are some other activities you can get up to this weekend. We've got Pride at the Pier, LGBTQ2+ themed activities at the shipyards in North Vancouver. And there's Squamish Days, Logger Sports Festival, family-friendly activities and logger competitions all taking place in Squamish. And we've got the Harmony Arts Festival in West Vancouver. It's an arts festival featuring live music and art displays all taking place in West Vancouver. And that's been Getting Out for this week. So don't forget, get out or get in somewhere where you can have a look up.
Okay.
We got it?
That'll do.
Another option for summer fun, of course, is the Richmond Night Market, where one family has been running the Po Wa dim sum stand for 2 decades. We spoke with the mother-daughter duo behind the business and their challenges as well as successes.
Fresh spicy fish balls, pan-fried pork buns, pork siu mai. Come take a look.
My mom's ran the night market for about 25 years plus, I think. And every year she says, like, this is gonna be my last year, this is gonna be my last year. But every year she goes back. It's a lot of work running the night market. And I think she just loves being there. Like the energy, the people, the hustle, she just loves it. Grew up in Saskatchewan, in Regina, Saskatchewan. My grandpa had a restaurant, House of Yi. 5 siblings in the family, and the 5 of us, we grew up together running the business. We were the only Asian family in our community. So moving up to Vancouver, it was really different for us. And I've never seen that many Asians before until I moved out here. The dim sum fairs, I think that was our first time working in a food stall, food booth environment. And we didn't expect to have so much business, and we got slammed. We weren't prepared for it, but then we definitely learned, and as each year came on, we just did better and better. Oh, my mom was like the strongest, happiest person that you meet. She never had a bad day. She ran the restaurant, she took care of all her kids, she took care of the husband, she took care of the in-laws and everything. So my mom she's rock solid. She's the foundation to the family for sure. And she was just always happy. You never see her mad or anything.
在夜市里面呢，和家庭2个来平衡的话，应该我感觉是2样的平衡得很好，因为孩子是回来帮忙，他们也好开心。我在家庭也每一个孩子也付出也是很开心，我们每个人也是感到很愉快。
When I came up with my business, I decided to honor my dad and my grandpa and named it House of Yi Fine Foods. It makes me very proud to say I'm the first to market gluten-free dumpling company in Canada. My mom did not want me to be in the food business because she knows it's a struggle. It was a big struggle for the family. At this point, I think finally my mom is supportive, but when I first started, she was not supportive at all. It was actually kind of sad because she just thinks she knows the struggle in the food business and she knows how we struggled through it, so she didn't understand why I wanted to go back into it. But she's just like, well, Christine needs help, so she rounded up all her friends and then they made dumplings for me while I was still figuring out how to run the business. I don't think my business would have taken off if I didn't have my mom and my aunts at help. She's just a happy person, so you can't really tell how much of a struggle she's going through, but like now that I'm grown up, I look back, I was like, man, she had it rough. But yeah, she dealt with it with so much grace. She doesn't show it. I didn't have my kid until I was 40. Maternity leave to me was just, it's okay if I didn't take it. I just remember even after the C-section, I was at the hospital and I was still like, placing an order or receiving orders and stuff. And it was just, again, I think that comes from my mom. She didn't take maternity. I just remember she'll tell a story how she had my brother and then like a week later, she's in the kitchen, like helping with a banquet or something like that. And yeah, so she definitely is an inspiration, not just to me, but for all my siblings too. So my mom was able to stay calm running a business and taking care of 5 kids. And I don't know how she does that because I run a business and have 1 kid and I get stressed out quite easily. So I really commend my mom for like keeping calm. So my Cantonese is not fluent, and my parents' English, they don't speak it fluently as well. So when it comes to food, I think that's our love language. It's not through words, but it's through like, what did I make for you today? Where did I get the ingredients? Wow, you got these ingredients, and that means you must really love me if you went out of your way and spent 3-4 days making this dish for me. And I think that's where the love of food comes from.
他们感觉是很温暖，他们来到我们的店，看到我们一家人，就是你们每一个人就是的样子是好开心的。他说，就是这样了。
The power of food can transcend through different generations, different businesses, different cities and borders, and that's just the power of food. She's saying that this is gonna be her last year, but I don't know. Like, don't be surprised if you find her there like 5 years going. I don't know. That's just who my mom is.
Family affair, and that food looks so good. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this show on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as on YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC. Zara Premji will have your late local news at 11 o'clock tonight, right after the National, so please tune in before you turn in. I will see you on Monday, and we leave you with more of the arrival of the old Henry Hudson Schoolhouse at its new home on the Capilano Reserve with ceremony and song. Good night. Happy Pride.